Welcome back one more time. So far, from the beginning of this section, we have run our game on the browser, and it is completely okay if we run our game on browser as long as we keep our game simple and don't apply any complex logics or other like heavy frameworks or libraries. But it is also important to see how our game actually looks like on mobile device. And in that process, I have opened my emulator, which is a Pixel 7. And also I have run this game. And as you can see that we have our game screen. And at the beginning of game screen, we try to show a message. And we are looking at the message, but not the full message. It is like cropped to the left and right. We can only see a portion of the message because perhaps the font size is too big for this mobile screen, because previously we have built the game with the thing of with the browser in mind. So browser was a big space, and this text actually fits well in the browser but not in the mobile device, so we need to fix it. And another important thing is we are looking at the status bar and status bar contents, which is overlapping with our text components. And also another thing, like I told you, that previously we were playing this game in the browser and kind of in a landscape mode. So if we want to play this game on the mobile device, then perhaps we should set the orientation to landscape as well to play the game smoothly, because we have a character and we need to move that character or rectangle across the screen. So we need a wider screen. If I start playing, if I tap somewhere, well, we have to fix them. But before we do that, I want to play the game so that we can know how our rectangle component or the character looks like, and also the spawned balls. So I have pressed, and now you see, okay, I think for this mobile device, I think the bat is in the appropriate size, and also the ball. So I think we don't need to modify or change the size of the bat or the ball. I think they are quite okay. But one thing we should know, that whenever we create an application, whether it is an app or our game or app should be responsive. That means our game or app should look like across the many devices with different size and resolution. And that's why we need to make our application responsive. And we can do so in various ways. In Flutter, we can use media query to make our app responsive. But in Flame, we have some other approaches. And I will talk about how we can make our game responsive by introducing world and camera, which I didn't talk about in this section. Maybe in the upcoming section, I will introduce world and camera. But in this section, in this game, what we can do is, first of all, we can remove the status bar, because whenever we play a game on any device, browser or mobile device, we want our game to be played as a full screen. So we can turn this game to be played as a full screen mode, and we can do so by simply adding one line of code, and then you will see the status bar will be gone. And also we need to adjust this text. I mean, perhaps we have provided a font size of 80, which is okay for browser, but absolutely not okay for this mobile device. So we can make this font size a bit dynamic. So let's set the full screen mode first. So I'm going to go to main.dart file, and here I need to add something before we call this run-up function. And I'm making this method as asynchronous. And also I'm going to call widgets flutter binding.ensure initialized. So if you want to initialize anything or something before the widget tree gets rendered on the screen, we need to call this method to tell the framework that these things that we're going to do right now or right now should be initialized before the call to run app. And after that, I'm going to now call the flame from flame.dirt, then call device, and then call a method called full screen. So this will make the game as a full screen. So the status bar will be gone in that case. And this method is actually an asynchronous method that returns a future, and we should wait to finish this method. And also we need to set the orientation for this game as a landscape, and we can do so similar way. So flame.device.set, we have landscape, we have set portrait. So in our case that should be set landscape. So now we have our device in a portrait mode, but as soon as we run this device or restart this app right now, though the device in portrait mode, but we can see the game in a landscape mode, I guess. Okay, so now you see the game is in landscape mode, and we need to rotate the device. And also we need to restart the device because the game size has been changed and the onload method has been changed, and etc. and etc. So we couldn't see the center message. So now we can see the message though, but it is quite big, and we know that if we run this game in a much smaller device, then perhaps this text would overflow once again. So why not we make the font size dynamic? And it's very easy. We can go to flame.dart and we can find this screen message text component, and instead of providing the font size explicitly or statically, what you can do is we can say that the font size should be for example 5% of the total width of the screen. So let's say size, which is the game size, .x, which means the width, and let's say 0.05. So the font size would be the 5% of the total width of the game screen. So now if I restart, then okay, so now I think it is well fitted within the screen, and I'm quite sure that if we run this game again on the browser, then this font size would be a bit larger than this one. And I think we need not to modify anything because the score is there, and the time text component is there, and it is well visible. So we don't need to adjust anything else. We can play. And if you think the bat is too big for this mobile screen, we can also adjust the bat size based on the width or height of the current screen. By simply saying, okay, where is the start game method where we actually added this my rectangle component. So we have provided the size for this MRC statically by providing 50 and 150. We can bring the size of the game. For example, the width of this rectangle component could be 5% of the total width and maybe 25% of the total height. You can adjust the height and width of the my rectangle component just like we did for the font size. So you can experiment with this size of the my rectangle component. So that's it. So we don't need to modify anything for this game because the game was very simple one. Now we have run this game on our mobile device. We set the orientation to landscape, and we have removed the status bar by setting the full screen mode. Now I think the game has just got a decent look.